And then my daughter goes to Austin College. I'm in Texas. So my daughter goes to Austin College, and she's going to be a sophomore this coming year. And then my youngest is going to be a junior in high school. So full house.
I would say so. You've got a full house over there. So, wow.
Yeah, lots going on.
I think it's interesting, during all the pandemic, I think every age brings their challenges, right? Because I think when you're dealing with teenagers who have kind of missed out on maybe their senior year of high school, or, whatever that looks like for them, that's really rough. And it's also rough on the other side, having young children. And not being able to kind of help them express that energy that they have. And then, even when you're in the middle of the teenagers and the really young children, maybe they don't understand what's going on, and why do they have to video chat all their friends and they can't see anyone, and what is coronavirus, and why is the news so scary? Why do we have to wear masks? So there's a lot going on.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, as I said, I manage a group home for women and children coming from domestic violence, and so the struggle with that is that the young babies, like the ones that are kind of like the ages that you guys have, they want to come up and hug us, and we're so used to hugging them, but just trying to practice that social distancing and kind of teach them what that looks like right now, at least for the foreseeable future.
Wow. Oh, what a change, right? Like starting 2020, no one ever, this is just crazy. Like, this is what everyone says, but it's unprecedented, as if that hasn't been said enough.
Absolutely, yes. It's definitely creating a new type of resilience for all of us.
Definitely. And I see we have a lot more people joining on the line. So hello. I love that I see Olga on camera and Marissa. Hello, I see you. I'm so excited to have you all here today. And I'm sure you can hear my 1.5-year-old in the background who wants to be a part of this. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. I'm just going to let a few more people join. So let me mute myself and share my screen. There we go. I'm really excited to have everyone on the line today, and let us know where you're calling in from. I myself am in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Candice, where are you located again?
I'm in the Bay Area in California. I'm specifically in the East Bay. So right in the heart of Silicon Valley.
Wow. That's awesome. Oh, see, we have some people from Sunnyvale, California, Washington, D.C. is my personal favorite. Brooklyn, from Bangkok, Thailand, sorry about that. I love seeing how many people we get on the line from all over. Texas, awesome. Oh, yes, you said that, Olga. You are from Texas. Perfect. Connecticut, awesome. All right. Northern VA, Los Angeles, California, Kentucky. Love it, love it, love it. Perfect. So I am going to start recording and then we will get started. Perfect. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. I am so excited for our chat, as I am a little bit selfishly excited to learn about this for my own professional development, and also to help everyone else on the line learn about the different opportunities that program management has that maybe you didn't know about. And so, just a couple of quick housekeeping rules before I really get into the topic. Please feel free to turn on your cameras, come off of mute. We really love this to be an engaging conversation, and this is about you. So we have half an hour. If you don't feel comfortable coming off of mute, please feel free to write your questions or comments in the chat, and we'll definitely do our best to get to them. But if at any point you want to come off of mute, you can always hit the raise your hand function in the participant section, and then we'll be able to make sure that we definitely get to you. And so then with that said, this is also being recorded. I will send a follow-up email with this recording, and so you will be able to watch this and share this afterwards. And so with that, I want to introduce our very special speaker, Candice Cuadros, who is a director of program management at Roku. And so I'm going to hand it over to you, Candice, to give us a little bit of an introduction.
All right. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I'm Candice Cuadros, and thank you, Nicole, for the lovely introduction. As Nicole mentioned, I'm the Director of Program Management at Roku. I work on the enterprise engineering team at Roku, and we help solve problems with our main goal for our team is to build automation of business processes at Roku and help scale the company through consolidation and automation of third-party tools as well as internal tools. I've previously worked at Google and Microsoft and have more than 12 years of experience in the program management discipline itself, as well as technical program management. My background is, I do come from a technical background. I do have a bachelor's in computer engineering and a master's in computer science. So I definitely come from from core engineering background, and started my career as a software engineer and then moved into technical program management, at my role in Microsoft. I'm really passionate about program management. I think one of the dream for everybody is to be able to find that passion, find that niche for yourself where, when you find the work that really speaks to you and the work that really resonates with you, it doesn't feel like work anymore. And, I finally found that that field or that role that really speaks to me, where it doesn't matter how many hours I put in, because I'm always, I love doing this. And I do want to spread the word about program management. I think it's one of those roles in the tech industry that not everybody knows of, or even if they've heard of it, they are not sure what a program management does or how a program manager can help their team. So that's the reason I love doing talks like these, is to just get the word out more and show this as a career option to other people, especially women, that it's definitely one of those roles that's you'll find a lot more job postings nowadays. So it's definitely booming as a career option.
Thank you so much for giving that bit of introduction to program management, because I know it's something that I've been really interested in and heard about a lot, especially working at PowerToFly and dealing with so many technical roles. And so I was kind of hoping that you could talk a little bit about certifications, and if somebody's trying to pivot into program management, what does that look like? Where can you start? That's a loaded question, I know. So as much information as you think you can give us, that would be super helpful.
So, my journey to program management wasn't as straightforward as you would think, because, I was in a software engineering role and I had to move into program management. So it isn't the most straightforward, because the skills that you need as a program manager are really pretty different from the skills that you would use as a software engineer. And I personally didn't do any certifications. I did do training programs that were available, when I was at Microsoft, before transitioning over to the program management role. But I do think certifications have a lot of value, especially for somebody who's trying to break into or really make a switch into this role. Because you do need to bring something to the table, especially when you don't have that prior experience, and you're trying to really break into the role. Having those certifications and having those work that you've done that could speak to elements of program management on your resume could really kind of bump your resume up into the pool of candidates that the hiring manager would consider. So absolutely, I think there's a lot of value in certifications. I myself didn't do any of the certifications like the PMPs, or, I do know that there's some more hardcore program management certifications. The one that I've done though are the Scrum Master certification. So I've done the Agile training. I've gone through quite a few Agile programs, and I've done the Scrum Master certification. So I am a certified Scrum Master, and that has helped, kind of help pivot into my role as a program manager.
Perfect. So do you, I know you said you didn't do the PMP certification, but do you recommend the PMP as a gateway?
So, it really depends. There isn't, I wouldn't say that there is a perfect answer for whether the PMP is going to help you. I would say that there isn't any harm in doing the PMP and kind of using that as that stepping stone to get into the roles. Although on the other side, I would say that, more than the PMP does have value, and the PMP could be that gateway, but more than that would be something which speaks to the program management experience, some kind of projects that you could do at your current job, or if you're studying, then maybe there's some projects at school that you can do which show elements where you can demonstrate that you did some pieces of program management in the job or in school, in different types of projects or different settings. And if you're able to speak to some of those experiences, that is, I would, in my opinion, those are more valuable than the PMP. I think it definitely would go hand in hand. If you have the PMP and you're able to bring some of those experiences to the table, that's sort of can help be that winning combination, which would help your resume stand out from the rest of the candidates. But I do think that there is more value to those experiences that you could, kind of add to your portfolio, add to your resume. Kind of look for, this is the way I did it, right? I was a software engineer and I wanted to become a program manager. What I did was I kind of tried to find sponsors. So I went to my manager, who was my software engineering manager at the time, and I told him about my aspirations to move to program management. He was super supportive. So that, that was step number one, is finding that network of sponsors who would help support your transition. If you don't have that, what you could do is try to find work on your team within your current role where you're kind of doing some of the program management pieces. So that was the reason I took the Scrum Master certification. Was I then kind of raised my hand and said, hey, I want to be the Scrum Master, for the next sprint for a month. And that was one step which I did, was like, kind of get that Scrum Master experience on my resume. And then I took on initiatives inside of software engineering, which were, really technical initiatives, but it involved a lot of coordination across the different Scrum teams. And, I had to pull together a core team, work with 8 different Scrum teams, get representation from each of these teams, kind of try to drive that initiative across these 8 Scrum teams. And that was, that's typical program management skills that you kind of bring to the table, where you're driving a group of people that come from different teams, and you're kind of driving all of them to work towards this one goal. So that was the other thing that I did, which kind of, I then added it to my resume as a program management experience that I could speak to. So that's kind of the strategy. I use that strategy to, make that pivot or make that shift into program management. And I would say, it wasn't the most straightforward thing. It did take a lot of patience. It did take a lot of, work on my end, because, being a software engineer, I wasn't used to running meetings. I wasn't used to telling people, hey, what's going on with this one thing? When are you going to get that done? What are the issues? What are the blockers? How can I help resolve these blockers? I wasn't used to doing that. And so there was quite a bit of a learning curve, and there was a lot of growth that I would say during the time where I was playing these dual roles. Like I said, the skills are so different from what program managers do. You have to be that high EQ person. You have to be able to read the room. You have to be able to communicate and help basically there's going to be all these people in the room that have completely different communication styles. You're going to have to tailor your message so that each of these people are taking away the essence of what you want them to do. You have to kind of get buy-in from all of these stakeholders, drive consensus, resolve blockers, So there's a lot of aspects to program management that if you're able to do at your current job and demonstrate, you're gonna, it automatically gives you that self-confidence that yes, this is a role that I can do and I can be successful in, as well as, it's something that you add to your resume, and then you can say, hey, hiring manager, I'm not a program manager right now, but here's all of the things that I've done that are program management type of work. And when you actually have the interviews, you can speak to those with real experiences, with real examples.
Yeah, I really, really love that advice. And I think it's really helpful to kind of understand some of those stepping stones that somebody can take to get into those roles. So we had a couple questions that came in the chat, and someone asked, can one switch the career without prior experience into a new company at all? So, can they move into a new company as a project manager? Somebody asked about product manager, I believe. And so can they do that without any prior experience as a program manager? Excuse me, I misspoke.
So, it depends. There isn't a clear answer. I mean, if you're able to ace the interviews, I think there is a way to make that switch into a completely different company. But that's only one step of the process. I would say is that getting that job is definitely step number one. But you don't want to just get hired. You want to be successful as a program manager. You really want to take your career to the next level as a program manager. So in order to do that, there's all these core competencies that I think you're gonna, all these muscles that you're gonna have to flex and really get good at, so that you're able to take your career to the next level in program management. So although I do think that, going back to the question, I do think that it's quite possible that you might be able to ace the interview and really crack an interview and make the switch into program management. But then once you're in the job, in the day-to-day rigor of program management, managing software teams, you definitely need to think about, well, what am I bringing to the table? What is my value add to this team? And how do I help drive these programs, drive these initiatives forward? How do I help unblock these teams so that our eventual goal of getting XYZ done is met? And in order to be really successful as a program manager, I have a few things that I call the program management toolbox that I think is a set of core competencies that any program manager would need to bring to the table in order to meet that next level. And I'm happy to go into details about that, but also want to be mindful of other questions. So Nicole.
Of course. Thank you so much, Candice. So actually, I think this is a really good segue into that, because Jeannie asked, this might be a basic question, but what exactly is the difference between a program manager versus a project manager? And so this might be the perfect place to bring in your program manager toolbox.
Yes, yeah. So, if I've worked with both project managers as well as program managers. So the key difference, and of course, these roles also differ from company to company. So, you might be at a company where project managers are the same as program managers. The other names that I've seen for, sort of roles that fall into this space are portfolio managers. I've also seen people who function as product managers, but they have the title of program manager or project manager. So it's definitely, there's going to be differences from company to company and from industry to industry. So, but the key differences that I see in my experience and my opinion so far is that program managers they supervise long-running programs or initiatives. And these programs comprise of groups of projects. So the difference that I see is project managers, they help drive individual projects forward, while program managers manage and drive programs forward. And a program is a collection of projects. Or they help drive these cross-company initiatives, which are collections of programs and projects. So another way to look at it is a program manager might focus on long-term business objectives, because these programs are long-running. So they're usually multi-year projects, they're multi-team projects, they're cross-functional. They're cross-disciplinary programs. But project managers, they work on these projects that have very clear timelines that are defined. So, pretty typically they're projects that run for many months. They have a very fixed budget assigned to it. They have very clear stakeholders, and they have very clear goals. And so you have a timeline, you have a team, you have a schedule, and you kind of drive to that timeline and drive through those milestones to hit your schedule. Whereas a program is a little bit, sort of the next level. So you're going from a project might be more tactical, whereas a program might be more strategic or visionary almost. So you have all of these individual projects that you need to drive forward so that you get your program to success.
I hope that answered. I know that there were a couple of people wondering about that, so hopefully that answered, but that definitely helped me understand the difference between a program manager and a project manager. So, that they're basically comprised of projects under a program manager, but it's definitely more of a high level view.
Yes.
And perfect. People are saying that was very helpful. So awesome. And then we had a question come in from Anju, and they were asking if you had any leads on projects which need volunteering in a program manager role that you know of. And, I kind of want to piggyback off of that. And maybe if there's a way somebody might be able to get that kind of experience, if it's not in their own company, where they might be able to eventually apply that. They said that they took a 3-year sabbatical to take care of their younger one, and they're finding it difficult to get back into the workforce as they're asking for more relevant experience.
So I personally don't have any, I don't have any leads specifically that I could point to, but there's a lot of volunteer jobs that you could take on, which would help bring some of that relevant experience into your resume. And, essentially, like I was saying, right, if I go back to the program management toolbox, the way, there's inside of a tool, when you open a toolbox, you'll see all these different layers, right? And the bottom layer is those tools that you use pretty much, once in a while, because they're right at the bottom. And then if you go to the middle layer, those are the tools that you use pretty frequently. But the top layer are the tools that you need every day. These are the tools that you're going to reach for like nonstop all the time. So if I think of the top layer of the things that, the core competencies that a program management brings to the table, and if I have to think of the top 3, this is how I look at it. So the number one thing that I think would, makes the difference between a good and a great program manager is ownership, or the sense of ownership. So as a program manager, I think of myself as the owner, like period. There's nobody else. I'm the one. It's my, I'm essentially driving this program. And if I'm not here, everything's going to fall apart. So you, as the owner, you have to think long-term and strategic. You are not thinking about just what needs to happen right now. You're thinking about how do I, my vision for this program, the success for this program is XYZ. And there's all these things, all these steps along the way, but you're always keeping your eye on that prize, that end goal. And as the owner, again, you're acting on behalf of the entire company. You're not thinking about just this one team. You're thinking you're thinking big, you're thinking strategic, you're thinking long-term. And as a program manager, I never say that that's not my job. Everything that is necessary to get your program to completion, you take on and you do. So, like at my current role, I have program teams that range from, small teams of 5 people, as well as really big teams that are 50 people. And as an owner, I think of these people that are in my core team as my resources. And so it's up to me to determine how I use these resources to get my program to success. So, you're thinking, you have that owner mindset. You're really thinking about how, as the owner, how do I use these resources that I have? How do I create the roadmap for my program? And, what are the things that I need to do to get my prize at the end, that vision accomplished? So that is really, I think of that as really the key, is that ownership mindset, always thinking about yourself as the owner, not afraid to dive into the details, and never saying that that's not my job, that's somebody else's job. Whatever needs to be done, you do it. You jump in, you do it. Second thing that I would say is the communication, like, and I did touch on this earlier, is that effective communication. You know, every person that you have on your core team is going to perceive information differently. You know, you say one thing, you will find 10 different versions of it that people take back with them. Some people like to see numbers, they're more data driven. Some people are more, they want to see the human side, or, you know, what the human impact of an issue is. So as a program manager, you need to understand all of these people that are part of your core team and adjust your style, your communication style, so that you're able to get your message across to all of these different people. And the last thing is the number 3 that I would say is the bias for action. So, you know, in business, really speed matters, because, you know, we're in a super competitive, hyper competitive world today. And any delays on your program might actually impact the bottom line of your business. And so you, as a program manager, you really need to have the bias for action. You want to move fast, you want to move with speed. For that, you need to understand the distinction between reversible actions and non-reversible, so irreversible actions. So, you know, there are many decisions, many actions that you could take as a program manager, which are pretty much reversible. You know, there's things that you could do, there's shortcuts you could take that you can come back later on and fix. And these do not need extensive research or extensive amounts of data to make these decisions. So you should be able to, you know, kind of perceive the difference between reversible decisions and irreversible decisions, and have the bias for action especially when you identify that something is reversible. You know, have the bias for action to really jump and, you know, push your program forward. So you want to be, you know, the risk taker, but you also want to make calculated risk decisions around when you take those risks. You want to be calculative about how much risk, what is my risk tolerance, and is this going to have a long-term impact? Is this a reversible decision? Can I come back to this later and fix it? But, you know, always have that bias for action. Always keep thinking about how do I push this program forward? How do I, you know, there's a blocker that I'm facing now, but how do I work around this blocker to keep my program moving forward and prevent it from being stalled? So yeah, so those are the 3, I would say, you know, those, you know, if I think about the top level of what really separates a good program manager from the really great program managers, is the ownership mindset, effective communication, and the bias for action. Those are the 3 that I live by pretty much every day with every program that I'm running.
And I love what you're saying, Candice, because I'm listening to you speak about this and I'm thinking, wow, does this not almost seem like being a parent and being a mom and having children and thinking about long-term planning? And, you know, if I, you know, feed them the wrong thing, will it have irreversible damage? You know, if I give them the wrong thing. So, you know, I want to challenge people on the line, because this is a question that comes up a lot, to really rethink the way you think about your time at home with your children, because you are learning so many valuable skills. And this is something that I say, and I will say time again, please don't ever take yourself out of the running, because there are so many things you are learning that other people don't have the opportunity to learn while being at home. So I feel like it comes up a lot as that it's a disadvantage, but I think it's a really great opportunity, especially if you want to get into program management. Maybe the people you are applying to work with or something may not see it like that, but I do know that, you know, there are a lot of things that you are learning that are valuable. And some people dropped in the chat, actually, some places you could look. I think Volunteer Match was a place. So I just wanted to shout that out in case anyone's listening. And then I know, oh my gosh, this is such a good conversation. I love this. We only have 5 minutes left, unfortunately. But I had
somebody just said planning a wedding is even a project, and absolutely, oh my gosh, planning a wedding. You know, this, in fact, everything like life. I think of life now as a program that I'm running. Like my kids are my, you know, my programs that I'm running, because I'm not thinking about, hey, what's going to happen in the next 1 year, 2 years. We're always thinking long term. We're thinking about, hey, you know, 20 years down the line, what is the life what is the vision that I have for my children? And what are the things that I can do now to get them, you know, to make that vision a reality? I mean, it might sound like I'm managing or micromanaging every aspect of my life, but I do want to set up my kids for success. So I'm doing everything I can right now to get them to that point. So absolutely, program management, project management, these are things that all of us are doing in our day-to-day life. It's how do you translate those? I think all of us have those skills. How do you work on those skills, and how do you keep flexing those muscles to really make them better? And how do you translate that into your resume so that you can demonstrate that to hiring managers, or even if you're already a program manager, how do you get better? How do you transfer some of that thinking that you're probably already doing at home with kids, or when you're planning your wedding, any big thing that you want to do in your life? How do you translate that into your resume so that hiring managers also see that stand out?
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. And I'm going to stop sharing so I can drop your LinkedIn in the chat, because we have tons of questions coming in. But one thing I wanted to get to in the last 3 minutes that we have is, and I'm just going to stop sharing now so I can do that, is, do you need a tech background to get into program management?
Again, this is, there isn't a clear answer. So, I wouldn't say a hard yes or a hard no. It really depends. If you look at the job postings that you find on program managers, or even you'll sometimes see there are roles that are technical program managers, and then you'll see program managers. So it really depends on which company you're applying to, because so for example, when I was at Google, there were roles that were specifically technical program manager roles, where you're working on a software engineering team, you're working with the software engineers every day. So you definitely need to have there is a bar for the technical aptitude that you would need to clear to be able to get hired as a technical program manager. But at Google, there's also roles that are pure program management. There isn't a technical bar essentially that you need to ace to get the job. But if you're working in the tech industry, you definitely want to bring a tech mindset to the table. So you do want to know what's happened. If you're working on a product team, for example, you do want to know what's going on in the industry around that product. Who are its competitors? What are the other companies doing in that area? What are the new advancements that are happening? So you do want to have your finger on the pulse. So even if you're not like a super technical person, but you do want to know generally what's happening in the tech industry. So having that sort of the curiosity to know more, to learn more about what's happening when it comes to that particular product, that particular discipline, that would help take you a long way. But again, like I said, right, it depends. So there's definitely a lot of companies out there that do look for people that the technical background isn't a must, but you do want to demonstrate those core competencies or those core skills that program managers would need to have, not only to get hired, but to be successful as a program manager. And in fact, I can give you an example from one of the program managers that I'm working with at Roku. Her background is finance. So she has nothing, she didn't come from a tech company. She came from a completely finance-based background, but she's the most curious, or the most she has that growth mindset. So she's always thinking about how do I get better, or how what are the things that I can do to keep learning, to keep growing. So even within finance, she was working with tools that would help her do her day-to-day job. And by doing that, she actually became an expert using these tools. And so then she took that beyond just using those tools that she had, but she started looking in the industry to see what are the other tools that are out there. What are some of the gaps that exist across these tools? Which are the other tools that would help my job better? So, she started thinking about beyond just the tools at her work. What is it that's out in the industry? And that, kind of having that growth mindset and thinking about not just what is it within my sphere, but what what is happening outside, what is happening in the industry, what is the research that's going on, what sort of new tools and technologies are being built, and how do I play a part in that? Kind of having that growth mindset, always looking, always thinking, always stay curious. She that's sort of her motto, and she kind of did that, and now she's a program manager at Roku. So she didn't come from a tech background. She's really successful as a program manager, and even now she demonstrates that every day is that growth mindset, is how do I get better, what are the things that I should be learning, what are the things that I should be doing to take my career to the next level.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing that story and all this information. And I know we have tons of questions that we didn't get to because unfortunately we are at time. But I'm sure we'll have Candice back to dive into this topic a little bit more deeper, because there were so many questions we didn't get to, and there's, I think, so much more information that she has to share. Yes. So I dropped her. Yeah, Kara said, PowerToFly, let's do this again, but for longer. I agree. And so I just want to say thank you so much to everyone on the line today for joining us, whether it's your first time or your 50th time. I am happy to welcome you, and I hope to see you again in another chat. We have tons of amazing stuff happening at PowerToFly. And yes, the recording will be available. I just saw a question come in the chat about that. And so thank you to you, Candice, and thank you for your time. And I really look forward to having you back here.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was a pleasure. I'm always happy to talk about program management, always happy to spread the word about program management. This is a role that there's so much opportunity in the tech industry. There's just so many of these roles that are open right from the junior level all the way up to the executive level. And, the skills that, skills that you would need as a successful program manager, if you master those skills, you can translate that into any other role at the company, I would say, because you're getting an insight working with people across the company. You're getting an insight into the kind of work that different teams do. So there's a lot of value in mastering some of these skills that a program manager would use. And I'm more than happy to come back and talk more about this to the group here.
Awesome. So thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you have a safe and a wonderful day. Today is Monday. I think it's, oh yes, it is Monday. Okay, yes. I hope you have a good week, because obviously I'm not doing so hot today. But I hope to see you again in another chat.
Thank you so much. Bye.